What steps can you take to empower you through a successful divorce and to reshape your life after? This is Divorcely, and I'm your host, Beth Cohn-Kramer. I'll be talking with today's expert guest to share some tips to help you move through divorce to get to the life you deserve. Hello, this is Beth Cohn-Kramer, co-founder and CEO of Divorcely. Today we are here with Manijeh Motaghy, who is the executive director and president of Perfectly Here in Tarzana, California. She's also certified and authorized by the UCLA Mindfulness Research Center to teach mindfulness. Welcome, Manijeh.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, we're happy to have you today. Let's start a little bit by talking about your background and what it is that you do and how you got to this place where you're focused on teaching mindfulness and sharing that with people.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Well, actually, my training background is twofold. One is I have a doctorate degree in psychology of management consulting. So that means I am trained to develop strategies, business plans, train employees and work with management and coach management on how to enhance performance, how to clarify goals, objectives, and changing the culture of the organization and things of that nature. And then my other qualification is being certified and authorized to teach mindfulness classes for UCLA, which means, every year some number of people get certified, but not everybody is authorized to teach these classes. And the way I got into it, very much from life being chaotic during my marriage life, which is about 10 years now has passed. And, living and managing a very chaotic life, a very full life with lots of managing businesses, lots of international travel, kids, social life, and, basically being this superwoman who handled so much. And then also, having family issues with addiction and things of that nature that even complicates things much more. There was some little bit of mental illness here and there, and so making life very difficult to sort out because things were not always logical, things were very emotional at times. And so it came to a point where I totally couldn't handle it anymore, as if I was a firefighter that was putting out fires here and there, and eventually I couldn't do it, and fires got, connected to each other, and, the whole forest is burned. So that's just like a metaphor analogy of you just getting a sense of how emotional, very intense emotional life I was having to live with, both with my ex-husband who, he had a lot of ups and downs emotionally, and myself having to, coordinate with that emotionally, so my emotions would go up and down too. And at the same time having to manage everything and look very good, actually. To the outside world, look perfect, look awesome, you got, this couple makes a lot of money. They go to traveling all the time. Look at their kids. All these things that from the outside people really focus on, unfortunately, in this culture. Focusing on how do we look like? What do we look like? And then not really be focusing on the inner happiness of the individual and the family. So one thing led to another. Finally, I had to divorce, and it was in the middle of actually me continuing with my doctorate degree. So, but one thing that was really helpful was being in an educational environment, academic environment that would help me feel, okay, there is stability here, there is logic here, there is a sense of growth and, self-esteem. So that was very helpful to me. And it was just happening on the side. So And then I stumbled on mindfulness. Actually, I took a course in undergrad, and it introduced several Asian philosophies and thoughts. One of them was Buddhism, and when it came to the type of meditation that is mindfulness, I totally felt like this is home. It felt so right. And I pursued it. I followed it and found, here and there it's very difficult. At the time it was very difficult to find resources, but I had met a man who became my partner. He was a teacher also. So it was very useful having relationship with him and learning mindfulness and going through also a lot of emotions and learning how to settle down, not permanently settle down emotions, but when they arise, what do you do? You actually have something you could do with it that is more effective than the automatic way of reacting, especially to unhappy or unpleasant emotions. So I kept going to retreats, 10-day silent retreats, and every year I have my own spiritual teacher who's very high level, and then I also make sure to get trained in the academic sector, in the scientific sector. So having a whole well-rounded sort of a viewpoint of utilizing mindfulness, and that it's not enough, actually. Mindfulness is just a state of being aware of your inner experience and your environment. And then while you're aware, you can regulate yourself, manage yourself better, but it's not enough. You need definitely to have a heart of kindness. You definitely need to have a heart of compassion, although as humans, we have certain amount of it, but we can get disconnected to that immense resource that is at our disposal. So, as the more I taught, in the past so many years, I can't tell you, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of teaching I have done. In the beginning, lots of it were not paid, but gave me a lot of experience about understanding people and seeing their mind and how they process something. So today these classes are very effective, especially the ones we teach through UCLA, very effective. They have a very good curriculum that teaches people how to meditate and also bring this mindfulness into your daily life, not just doing meditation to feel peaceful and calm, but rather learning skills, teaching your own mind how to manage yourself at any moment, anytime, and anywhere. It shouldn't matter what the circumstances. So I'm going to stop and see if you have a question.
No, that was great. So how would you describe mindfulness in a couple of sentences to somebody who might not be familiar with the concept? We talked a little bit about you talked a little bit about meditation and about being aware of yourself and how you operate in your outside realm and your inner realm. But how would you describe mindfulness to somebody who might not?
I think the best way to describe it is to give you an example, because there are lots of operational definitions out there, and I could say, it's to be curious and to be present and to be with what is happening right now. But really, what does that mean? That could be a concept to somebody who doesn't know. So the best way, or one of the examples I can make is when, let's say, you go to a restaurant and they have a new recipe, the recipe you're not familiar with, but you're curious about it, you want to try it. That sense of curiosity and openness, and when you take a bite, the moment you take a bite, you're very in tune and you want to know, how is this? That very moment that you're tasting, smelling, and really experiencing it within yourself, experiencing that bite, right before your mind comes and says, oh my God, this is good, this is bad, this is, I don't like it, I need to have it. Right before that, that's the state of mindfulness. being with the experience as it is in a raw kind of a format. And then our mind comes and always has an opinion, which is fine. But the mind is capable of kind of distorting reality. Mm-hmm. Taking reality and making it as it applies to the person. So it's no longer the absolute, the raw reality of it, but it's, in reference to me, how does this feel? Oh, this is good, this is bad, I like this, I don't like this. And so with mindfulness, the more you train yourself to stay in that state right before the mind comes, the more you're able to distinguish between this is an actual taste and this is my opinion of the taste. This is me liking the taste and this is me not liking the taste. The more you do that, the more you become skillful at realizing, oh, it's just me. It's not the circumstance. For example, another example, when we were moving into the center, every day, we were hauling things, 2-3 things in our hands, rolling, bags. And I remember wanting to go into the elevator one day. The elevator, I had a lot of things, in my pulling behind me and all that. The door was not, in my perception, it was not staying open long enough for me to get everything inside. And immediately that sense of irritation came up. I can't believe it. Come on, stop, wait, let me get in, right? And so, I got in, I went about my day, and then 2 days later, I came in to the elevator. I had nothing to carry with me. I'm standing in the middle of the elevator, waiting for the door to close. And again, I saw this kind of impatience come about that said, I can't believe it. Why don't you close? So it's the same door, the same amount of time. Nothing has changed in the outside environment about that. But it's my internal relationship, my constantly looking for peace, comfort, happiness, me. Myself, I want this, I want that, and then if it doesn't go my way, which it cannot go my way, it has to go somebody's way. Sometimes it cannot go my way all the time. But our mind cannot see it when it's constantly talking, when it's constantly producing these opinions. As soon as I recognized that and I remembered, 2 days ago I was upset that why it doesn't stay open long enough, and now I'm upset why it doesn't close long enough, faster. And I started laughing. I thought, oh my God, I can't believe it. And so when you practice to be aware, you could catch yourself and prevent yourself from going down that road and piling up all these stresses from the morning. Why such and such person doesn't get out of the bathroom fast enough? Why did they put toothpaste in the wrong place? Why constantly being in conflict with something that we feel it should be a different way. And so who suffers? The person who constantly wants a different way. We constantly cause our own dissatisfaction, unhappiness, stress, and suffering because we're not in tune with emotions. Another thing with emotion is that once the emotion comes up, if it's not pleasant, if it's negative, our mind is wired, has a negativity bias. It's wired to go look for the reason so it could get rid of it as soon as possible. So immediately it could think of 10 things, but it, thinks of something that is the reason for it. And because it attaches to this unpleasant feeling, the person is led to believe that this is true and it's fact. Because look, the feeling is validating my thought. And look, the thought is validating my feeling. And so it must be fact. Then the person reacts through that, and it's really most of the time we're not responding to, if let's say there was a real issue that we have to respond to, when there is unpleasant feeling about it and you're not aware what the person does, goes after solutions to get rid of the unpleasant feeling, not really to solve the problem. So with mindfulness, we are learning to kind of disarm, if you will, bringing yourself to a place of neutral where you can be clear. Oh, okay, this issue is an issue that I need to actually get involved and find a solution. But I have found from my personal life and hundreds of students who attest to this, that once you become aware of these things, a lot of the issues fall away. They're not actual issues. They are made up. In my perception, they appear to be an issue. Lots of it fall away, and the load of us having to handle so many things really reduces just by becoming aware and not taking things personal. Not taking, okay, there is an emotion present here, it's anxiety. When I'm mindful, when I'm aware, I can feel that in its raw form without my opinion of it. When a thought comes and wants to, justify, says, oh yeah, it's because you go after solving that solution and you're forever running after solving all these things so you could finally be okay. But look, in this moment, if you notice and you call it and you label it, or you realize, oh, this is anxiety, this is how it feels in my body. Oh wow, it's strong. Taking a deep breath and just being with that for a few moments, and most likely it dissipates and dissipates and dissipates and goes away. Because everything is passing and shifting. It will not pass when we have a story and we cling to that story that is true, and then we keep this anxiety alive because the story is there and they're connected, they are attached. If the thought is here, anxiety must be here. It cannot not be there because you have attached them together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes. Yes,
yeah.
Definitely.
So when you distinguish between the two, you're separating the two and you're allowing the anxiety to pass. And then the thought will fall away too. So again, I'm going to stop and see if you have any other questions.
Well, I think a lot of our listeners could definitely apply this to divorce, because we know divorce is a time when we're making a lot of choices and decisions that it can be very stressful because you're having to gather all this information, and it feels like it's just relentless that you constantly have to make these decisions that, the stakes are pretty high, and if you make some decisions that could impact you going forward. And I think that paralyzes a lot of people. It places an obstacle. Plus, we're bringing a lot of our emotions into it, our patterns that we talk about, how, we've developed these patterns during our relationships that we can carry through to this process, the way we handle conflict or the way we looked at things from our childhood, even during our marriage. So do you think that practicing mindfulness and learning how to do that can really help women during the process?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. I wish totally. Actually, I did get into it, a little bit after my divorce, so it was very helpful. But definitely, it's not just about goal setting and making decisions. There's a lot of intense emotions from personal experience, I say. A lot of intense emotions. Disbelief that this is even happening. Oh my gosh, finally, because we have built up a fantasy about forever. We're going to die together. We're going to grow old, and we're going to do this and that. And then a lot of sadness about loss of this fantasy. It comes up. A lot of anger comes because you may be blaming the other person. Only if you hadn't done, only if you would do this, only if he wouldn't do that, or he would do this, or he would, go to meetings or go to therapy or go only. And there's a lot of anger that feels justified comes up. A lot of confusion can come up, not knowing what to do because your mind is filled with a lot of emotions that cloud your mind, not knowing what to do with your children, how to handle them, how to handle property, finances. A lot of women, or even men maybe, who were not the primary breadwinner, bringer, they feel like, wow, well, how am I going to live? What am I going to do? How am I going to support myself? A lot of worry about being alone. A lot of people, especially women, the fear of being alone prevents them to get out of a relationship that is not healthy for them. Being alone, and then just being there without somebody else can be very difficult. Some people say, at least I would get this and that when he or she was there. At least she would do all these things for, at least he would, do all these things. And so divorce is very difficult because emotionally you are facing, sometimes even feeling failed, embarrassed, feeling like you are, now you're going to be going into the society and you're a single person, everybody's couples because you were in the past, couples, and you're going to be now whatever, called this and that and looked upon, maybe other women may fear that, oh, she's single, whatever, maybe other men, you know what I mean? And all of these things come about in our mind and in our head, and most of it is a story. Is not real, is not true, it is just the assumption. And so with mindfulness, we can recognize, oh, yes, of course it's got to be hard. Who said it should be easy? I shouldn't be expecting myself not to feel this or that. However, I can feel, when the feeling comes about, it's sadness, it's rage, it's anger, it's worry, it's anxiety, frustration, irritation, impatience, whatever it is. I can be there for a moment, for a few moments. Let it be here and not attribute it to, oh, it's because I'm getting divorced that this is happening. This feeling is just here. This emotion is just here and it's going to pass. By learning that, it's not easy to all of a sudden pick it up, in the worst time of your life to do this because it doesn't make sense. It's like, my God, what are you talking about? You have no idea what you're talking about. If you were me, then you'd know what I'm feeling. To tell a person who's going through that, it's not easy. So whenever you have a chance, the moment you hear that, oh, there is a skill, anybody hears, there is a skill I can develop within me, utilizing my own natural resources, my own strengths, enhancing my focus, my attention, enhancing the way I can sustain my attention to something. The moment you hear that, I think is everybody, this is my bias, of course, everybody should say, oh my God, I should go learn this. You don't have to be in divorce to need it. You don't have to be, I had one student who I used to teach at WeSpar Cancer Center for about 3.5 years. And we never talked about cancer, by the way, never, because anything could be. One of my students was a husband of a woman who had passed away because of cancer, family member. So he would come to class, he would learn the meditation and mindfulness, and class after class after class, he would go to retreats and all that. And one day he said, I'm happy. I don't have any issues. I'm not, suffering because my wife has passed. I have good memories with her. I don't know, where is this leading? Why do I even need this? I can just spend my life, my nights go to, I don't know, maybe go to plays or movies or gathering with friends or whatever. Where is this leading? So we answered him and he didn't come back. He didn't come back and I felt really bad. I thought, wow, gosh, what did I say? Was it my answer? Was it this? Was it that? And then about a year later, I asked somebody who knew him, I said, by the way, what happened to so-and-so? Is he okay? Did I really say something that he just doesn't even want to come around to say hi? And she said, no, he actually is in the hospital and is going through an extremely difficult time with procedures and all that. And he has actually told me specifically, please tell Manijeh that I'm using my breath, that I get it now, why I needed to do that. Mm-hmm. I mean, it brings chills to me when I say it right now. He said, please say thank you. Please tell her this has saved my life. If I did not have that, I could not go through all these horrendous procedures and be okay. I would be totally suffering at a very different level. And I'm not. And I'm so grateful. I get it now, he said.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's so connected to the human condition and being able to any condition in our daily lives. A lot of it is our perspective, really, how we put that perspective and what we're expecting, our expectations.
Absolutely. Perspective is designed in our mind through our own biases, as it relates to us. So clarity helps us to kind of create some space between myself and what's happening outside. So, anything, for example, in the realm of divorce, maybe while you're a person going through it, you can just be with one step at a time. Right now, all of the stuff that is in my head, all the worry, anxiety is not happening. All I'm doing is I'm walking to my car, sitting in my car, my hands on the wheel, pulling myself out of the car, out of the garage. I'm just driving down this, moment by moment, staying with the exact experience of the moment, kind of like that taste of the food that first time you don't know what it is. Being with that. Right now I'm just driving down the road. Of course the mind is going to come and start talking, saying all these things and monologuing, and there is a very a good reason and explanation for that. The reason for that is we have a very wonderful learning system in our brain, which is developed from, the old ages. And this learning system has a memory system attached to it. So the usefulness of that is that when you learn something, for example, how to drive, you learn how to drive, you know where you're going, the valley or the neighborhood, wherever you're living. And so when you learn something, you don't have to relearn it again. It goes into your memory system and it then becomes an automatic thing to do. Mm-hmm. In the automatic state, when you're alert, you're awake, you have a certain amount of attention available to you. When you're in automatic, where can your attention go? It's got to go somewhere. It's got to be spent in some way. So it gets spent in monologuing, in stories in our head, thinking about future, thinking about the past, and not being able to stop it. It just totally makes sense. So what mindfulness is counter-automatic, autopilot. It counters that. It teaches you to, okay, let me feel my hands touching the wheel. Oh, the wheel is kind of round. It fits inside my hand as you're driving. This is a very good mindfulness practice. I'm not just explaining what it is, but it's a practice I'm talking about. You can take your mindfulness practice into your driving. Sitting in your car, noticing how is your body, are you upright, are you slouching, is one of your hips lower than the other one, you know what I mean? All of these contribute to your wellness. And then how is my elbow, for example, placed? Is it placed in a way that is comfortable for me? And then as you're driving, you're making a note, oh, that's the sky, that's the tree, the car. Whatever you see, you could point to it. And then you hear sounds of driving, vibration next to your ear, tuning into that. And this doesn't mean that you're going to all of a sudden get into accident. contrary to that, you would be so present that you could avoid a lot of different, dangers that could coming your way. And so just using your senses, sense of touch, sense of sight, sense of sound, sense of taste, sense of smell, using those and being with them. And it's, again, not easy because the mind is constantly active. But you are training yourself to come back. Let me just, let that go. That's the truck, that's the car, a truck, a car. But then mind will come and say, I don't like that truck. That car I like. No, we don't want to go there. We want to stick with the actual experience. And slowly and then you could notice, I'm okay. I'm peaceful. I have no anxiety. I have no worry. It feels so much better. And then when somebody is changing lane in front of you, you don't take it personal. He cut me off. The guy is changing lane. They're indifferent. The guy cut me off. So, you know what I mean? We won't get so bewildered.
I think a lot of that is shifting the perspective. So when you're going through a divorce, it's very easy to get caught up. One of the things that we like to talk about is when people are kind of governed. A lot of times women are either governed by fear, so they want to avoid conflict, which doesn't really have a good outcome during divorce, or governed wanting to take revenge or to get back at somebody, which also doesn't really. You're focused on that more than you are the details and what you need and what your children need if you have children. So this kind of takes you out of that pattern where you're looking at the past or the future.
Yeah, but you see, it's easy to say these things. Mm-hmm. It's easy to say, don't focus on revenge, focus on your child. And thank you very much actually for bringing this back to the topic. It's easy to say to somebody who's experiencing intense emotion for them to change their focus from here to there. They could change the focus momentarily, but they may go back there constantly. Mm-hmm. So this mindfulness tells you, experience this sense of revenge. How does it feel for you? In your body, in your heart, in your mind. It's kind of like taking a cup of poison, drinking the poison, and wishing the other person dies.
Yes, I love that quote.
You know what I mean? It doesn't work. You're the one getting impact. You don't know that by just perspective. You have to feel it. You have to become aware that, oh my God, the more grudge I'm holding or blaming somebody else for my unhappiness, the worse it gets, the worse I feel, and I am the one who's experiencing, nothing is happening to the other person. I'm the one drinking this poison.
That's absolutely, that's very true. That's why I've written about that, about forgiveness, because I think we tend to look at forgiveness as something that we're letting the other person off the hook. So when I was working with a therapist and doing writing therapy, the therapist, between our sessions, I would write something. She'd say, I want you to write a letter of forgiveness to your mother or whoever we were talking about that week. And it wasn't really, it's not, or your ex-spouse or to your marriage. It's not about letting the other person off the hook as much as it is you being comfortable or being able to accept what happened and not being caught in that cycle. Because that's, you're right, all it does is poison yourself. It's not letting yourself, you don't move forward from that. You're caught in this kind of mud pile.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about letting go of the pain. Feeling the pain of holding grudge and from your own heart of compassion and kindness for your own self, you come to realization and say, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to feel like this anymore. Oh my gosh, I can let my pain go and let this thing that's happened in the past let it have happened. Constantly wishing for a different path, it doesn't work. It's a fight we're always going to lose. It's a battle. We're getting into the war field, getting hit by all these arrows and it doesn't work. So letting that thing that's happened be in the past and protecting your happiness, protecting your heart, protecting your own self from constantly revisiting and re-experiencing the same unhappiness or sadness or anger or violation, whatever it was. And it's like you self-inflicting yourself right now. Mm-hmm. Every time you remember, it's as if it's happening right now, which is not happening right now. You're just thinking about it. See, we have this, another thing is just not the perspective or thoughts or changing your mind is not so helpful because so many of the other things are involved. We have an amygdala, an old brain that has a function, that has a purpose. Its purpose is to, when there is danger, threat, or a person is not okay, it produces stress hormones. Cortisol hormones are released into the body, and why? Because it tells you gotta do something. Run, fight, flight, faint, you know what I mean? You gotta do something about this. Your life is in danger. Now, amygdala is not intelligent. It doesn't know that you're just thinking about this. Mm-hmm. It cannot tell between this is a thought and a memory or an actual thing happening. It just releases stress hormones into your body, and when you start worrying about something, amygdala actually becomes happy, which a person may feel a little bit of satisfaction by worrying. It's that part of the brain that says, thank God she's doing something about it. Oh, good. At least he's doing something about it. You know, the worrying is good enough at some time. And so we can't realize that it's not just my mind and my thoughts, but all this biology, all the neurology, all the way my brain functions and all that. But the good news is that many studies, especially brain studies, have shown that mindfulness strengthens the interconnections of different functions of the brain. So the prefrontal cortex becomes much more effective in reaching the amygdala and saying, stand down, there is no fight, there is nobody right now, you're not doing anything to me, it's just a feeling, it's just a thought, it will pass. That's what you're strengthening by using mindfulness practice. Strengthening your prefrontal cortex, your management system, to be able to distinguish, oh, this is just a thought. Oh, this is just a feeling. Nothing is happening right now. Oh, okay, I can let it go. A lot of our stress and anxiety falls away by just managing your own internal thoughts, managing your own internal experiences and letting them pass. So the brain, the more you practice, the brain becomes more integrated. And also studies show that this way of living and thinking and feeling and relating to your environment, your life, becomes a trait. So when you practice long enough, you don't have to make as much effort anymore. It's your natural tendency now. This will be your default.
Mm-hmm. So it's an automatic response. So when you're like when you're driving somewhere and you don't even think about where you're going, you know how to get to the market. So you just know that you turn. You're not really conscious of it. You're not thinking of it step by step, but you're automatically doing it. Or when you drive, for that matter, when we get in the car, we don't think, okay, now I have to put the blinker on, now I have to do this, now I have to do that. You just automatically do that after a while. Right. But then you realize, when people start practicing, they realize, oh, I like this. I like to actually to be able to shift my attention. As it is, we're not able to shift my awareness attention away from all the thoughts and emotions and all that. But when you practice, you become able to shift your attention, not just change your mind or look at the positive, because then the mind will come and say, yeah, but. It will always have a yeah, but. But by shifting your attention from one sense of thinking, to another sense of touch. That moment that you're with the sense of touch, touching the wheel, feeling your feet, maybe you're walking, you feel your feet, that moment you're free.
You feel calm. You feel peaceful. You don't have the burden of all these things. For example, through divorce, a woman or a man has to handle all these difficulties, changing life, so many things. I remember when I was going through it, prior to that, there was many times I wanted to divorce. But every time we were either going to China. Oh my gosh, we're on the way to China. I can't do this right now. You know what I mean? Oh, we're signing an agreement for business with this person and that person. I can't do that. We're going to do this. We are, I don't know, having this big, humongous, party or something. There's a lot to disconnect from. So through divorce, going through divorce, when a person becomes able, practices to shift their attention to what's happening in this moment, they can realize, oh yes, I have all those 32 things to take care of. But in this moment, all I'm doing is this thing. I'm not obligated, nor required, nor is it possible to take care of all the 32 things right now. All I'm doing right now, I'm just driving myself to the attorney's office. That's it, for example. That's all I need to... Right. That's all I need to concern myself with. And then when time comes for you to think about stuff and prepare, then that's all you're doing. You're sitting, you're putting yourself in that position. Okay, what do I do with finances? You get involved with that. What do I do? What are my goals? You get involved with that. How do I go about handling or reaching this goal? What is the objective of the goal? What is my intention? Is my intention to harm, for example, my, now opponent, or is my intention to create wellness, happiness for myself and the other person? What if I can come from a place of what would be really the best for each of us? Because when two people, both of them are human beings, both of them are suffering. When both of them can reach a place where they're okay, they're not going to be so bewildered by this, it's good for everybody. Mm-hmm. So it's very difficult to do that when intense emotions, fear, anxiety, worry is here. But when you sit in practicing meditation, this type of meditation, mindfulness meditation is different than visualization or TM or chakras or these other things. Mindfulness meditation, like you pointed to before we started this session, it increases wisdom. Wisdom meaning knowing what is the best thing to do in each circumstance. I remember listening to Dr. Deepak Chopra. He said, in every circumstance, there is only one best choice available that is good for everybody. So it's not easy to find that one best choice when our mind is in a whirlwind, When you calm it down, you could actually see that best choice out of all the myriad of choices that we have.
That's very true. And it's very easy to get overwhelmed in the process because we were also bringing how we kind of, I remember when I was married and I would have this like a fight or flight response under a lot of circumstances when I was dealing with my husband at the time. And sometimes I brought that into the room, when I was meeting with our attorneys because that's just it just would kick into that for me. I'd feel my heart rate go up and I'd feel anxious and nervous, and that really stopped me. It placed an obstacle in front of me in order to be able to focus on what we were talking about. I had to kind of catch myself sometimes or leave the room a little bit to kind of catch myself in that. But now we know that mindfulness can be just a hugely important tool to help women as they're going through divorce and even for the life after. Do you have any tips that you can share for women that are before they're starting this practice that they could use starting now, in their daily life to kind of get geared towards that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's an acronym we can use that's called STOP. Perfect. It's a good acronym. STOP. S for stop. And this doesn't mean only physically. It could be mentally. It could be physically. It could be just, you're lost in your thoughts. You just stop. T for take a breath. And usually students forget about step because B is not breath it's a T. So I asked them, what is T? T for take a breath. So of course you're breathing, but when you stop your cascade of thinking or rushing physically and take a breath, you are tapping into what the breath that uses the entire nervous system. Our breath uses the entire nervous system to circulate the breath. So when you're tapping into your breath consciously, you're tapping into the nervous system. You're calming that down. So stop, take a breath. O for observe. Observe meaning, okay, what's going on inside me? I'm rushing, I'm anxious, impatient. I am not even here. I'm a few miles away. I'm thinking about the worst things that have not even occurred yet. Oh, okay, this is okay. And then P, proceed with kindness. Kindness to your own self, meaning changing your attitude. Whatever attitude is happening, changing it kind of towards, okay, being kind to yourself, to the environment, to other people. Even, when you go to see an attorney, you think that attorneys are not human beings? Do you think they are made of stone or metal? They're human beings, even considering them, not to bombard them with all of your emotions. Do you know what I mean? This impacts everything around us in our environment. So you're getting into your car, this stop acronym can take 30 seconds, really, so fast. Get into your car, you stop. Okay. Take your breath. Observe what is going on. I'm touching the door handle. I'm going into the car. I feel impatient. Releasing that. And then proceeding. Okay, let me see if I can just change my attitude a little bit. Proceeding with kindness. When you're getting into the building, opening the door to go into the lawyer's office. Okay, let me stop. Take a breath. Sometimes we feel that if I show more intense feelings, it will be useful. The guy or the judge or the attorney or anybody else will pay more attention to me. I have to express more. Sometimes we learn emotions. Expressing emotions is something that you pointed to habitual or learned from family of origin, because we come from it with emotions, but the expressions of it we learn along the way. Some people are stoic. They don't show. They don't, they just become quiet. They tune themselves out. Some people overly express, dramatize, anything. Some people just totally ignore. And so we want to express appropriately. Right now there is anxiety. I feel this. Let me take a breath and release it and continue with whatever I'm doing. Is that helpful? So stop, take a breath, observe what's going on in your mind, body, heart, environment, and P for proceed. Very quick meditation.
Mm-hmm. So those are such good tips, and thank you so much for sharing all that information. We'd love to have you on again as a guest to talk a little more about that, to go into some more practices that women can use, because I think that's also really helpful as they move forward through divorce, and also dealing with their children, helping children learn how to deal with the stresses of divorce and all the changes that are coming. But where can our listeners? Yes. Mm-hmm.
If you have, I don't know if you have time or not, about the children. Children usually don't have so much of their own emotions at that time. They watch the parent. They see what the parent does and how they should, react maybe. So the more calm you are, the more centered you are, the more present you are, that's good enough. Because once you're in tune with your own emotions, then the child feels safe. The child doesn't feel like, yes. So you don't particularly have to do things to help the child. Honestly, if you take care of yourself, if you go take a hot bath and sit and say, okay, all day I've been thinking about this, I've been working on this, it's evening, it's enough. I'm going to put it aside until tomorrow, that I'm going to pick up the goals and the things that I need to take care of. This evening, I'm just going to sit, have my dinner, take a hot bath, talk to my kids, be living a normal life, and emotions come up, you notice them, stop, take a breath. In the middle, in the middle of being with your kids, take a breath. You could even practice with your kids. Kids, let's do this. Stop, take a breath, observe what's going on, and, become more gentle and proceed. So that's extremely helpful with dealing with children and their emotions.
Well, you're also modeling, and we also talk a lot about self-care, which is also a piece of that, because you're showing I think it's hard as women sometimes to put ourselves first and to see it that we need to fulfill our own needs before we take care of other people. It's like the oxygen mask on the plane. If you're not taking care of yourself and you're, articulating that and you're telling your kids how stressed out you are, how horrible everything is, then that's what they're feeding on. They're feeding off of that, and you're not giving a safe place to them. But a lot of this is modeling. I grew up in a home where, you really were supposed to be happy all the time. So it just wasn't acceptable to be angry or sad or anything, or at least for women to be feeling that way. And that was the message that I got. So when I had children, I really made it a point to articulate how we felt and to tell my kids, how are you feeling right now, and not judge it, because I think that's really a big piece of that. And they're teenagers, and they've told me many times that they're grateful that they have those words. I gave them the words to use when they had feelings, rather than saying, well, look, don't be sad. Johnny has cancer, or someone else, is starving. It's not like your feelings are valid.
Yes.
Your feelings are valid. It doesn't really matter. So the other person is also sad, but that doesn't make your feelings or your experience, easier.
Yeah.
I think that's important. You're modeling.
Absolutely. And then, when a person has compassion, it's like you feel the suffering of the other person, but you don't become broken by it.
Exactly.
You stay there. Right.
No, exactly. I think that's it's important because that also, when you're telling somebody, well, this person has it worse, then you really shouldn't have any emotions, that's also another piece of it. You're more likely to have less compassion for other people because you're not seeing it that way. Now it's a competition. Because who has it worse? It's not like you're looking at it. I think that's also a valid point about the compassion piece of it.
Absolutely. And then if they take classes, if they come to us, then there are women who are close to us, I will be teaching these things much more, teasing it out and teaching techniques. But just one tip is, if you think okay, I'm going to give this meditation a try, and go pick it up somewhere from YouTube, from somewhere, and when you feel like you can't do it, I can't do this thing, that's the moment that you are thinking there is something else should be here. I should be able to experience something that I'm not experiencing. That's again the mind and stories in the mind. What you're really supposed to do is to keep shifting your attention from the thinking to another sense or an object that can hold your attention. Remember earlier I said when we go into automatic mode, our attention is kind of free. It's kind of floating, and it will pick up anything. It will go after anything, especially things that are related to us. So when you give your attention something to do, then it won't be so free, to pick up anything on its way. And then so you give let's say you say, let's focus on the breath, on the movement of the breath. How do I focus? Where is the breath? So you feel the sensations of it going into your nostrils, and then it causes a gentle rhythm, moving your chest up and down, and you feel that moment, those 2-3 moments, you're free of the mind. And this is not about don't think and become thoughtless. Absolutely not. But it's about becoming able you tell your mind where to go. You say, okay, time to think, and now it's not time to think. Now it's time to be here, enjoy food, enjoy scenery, enjoy the company, listen to people. This is the time. It's not easy to do that, so you keep practicing.
And and I think the way we live today, I think it's almost doubled or tripled, even without divorce, even if we were not in our regular lives without divorce in the picture. We're so used to, it's hard for us to sit in silence. So I think when I go to a restaurant, let's say, and I'm by myself or I notice other people by themselves, most people are on their phones, even if they're waiting for somebody, because they cannot, it's very hard for people nowadays to sit in silence because we're used to being, even when we're in our car, we want to go on the phone because we don't want to be by ourselves alone in our heads. I think that's a challenge today. So I think it's even more pertinent today than maybe in the past. We have so many distractions and there's so many ways that we want to get our head out of that. I think we're automatically looking for ways to switch our head in a way.
Well, it's nobody's fault. Your attention needs an object to attach itself to. Mm-hmm. So, and if you don't know what to give it, so it's nobody's fault. I mean, I tell my students, It's like we come with this human software, extremely intelligent, sophisticated software that we know some of the functions of it. We can operate some of its capacity, and a lot of it we can't. For example, the function of the heart, the feature of the heart, qualities of the heart, we really don't have that much of a knowledge how to operate this function to our benefit. The function of all the senses, we don't have that much, a little bit. It's like any other software that you want to manage. You go on the computer, all these smartphones, for some people it's very difficult. And yet the smartphone has a lot of capabilities, a lot of capacity to make your life so much easier. But when you don't know how to utilize the functions and you're not even aware of them, you don't utilize, you don't become, it doesn't help you any. Same thing with our own human software, I call it, for human condition and things, resources that comes with us. So in these classes or with mindfulness, you could actually learn those functions more and more, better and better, towards your life being more, happy, more free, more, you have much more time than you think. You have much more capability, and everything you do in your life becomes better.
Where can our listeners find you to find more information, or if they're in the LA area?
Sure. We have a website called perfectlyhere.org, perfectlyhere.org. And they can go on the website and see list of classes, and I have free podcasts they can go into under the community resources. There's audio. And then on YouTube, I also have some videos of meditations. The one that I recommend to beginners, Google my name, Manijeh Motaghy, Manijeh is the first name, Motaghy is the last name. And then under that, there's a meditation that I recommend to beginners. It says 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, which means every 5 minutes I ring the bell. If you just want to do 5 minutes, you do 5, I ring the bell, you get up and finish. You want to go forward, at 10 minutes I ring the bell. That's people love that one, because usually they don't stop at 5 minutes, but it holds them, it sustains them, tells them exactly what to do, what's going on, and to be okay that you can actually do this. So YouTube, our website is the best resource actually. And our center is in Tarzana, in 19100 Ventura Boulevard, suite number 5. And our phone number is 818-453-0640.
Well, thank you so much for your time today.